Have you ever wondered why it seems like the more you awaken spiritually, the harder it becomes to love someone and be understood? Why is it that the more you truly feel love, the more alone you become? It's as if the clearer your worldview becomes, the less likely people are to follow you. This video will show you the truth. No one has the courage to say awakened souls love differently, and therefore suffer differently. It's not drama, it's reality. You'll understand why, when the heart expands and consciousness awakens, love stops being a game and becomes something the world still can't handle. Here you'll discover what really happens inside those who feel too much, think too much, and see what others pretend not to see. You'll understand why this sensitivity, which seems like a gift, also becomes a burden. And what's more, you'll discover the exact point at which love ceases to be an emotion and becomes a state of consciousness. This isn't just another video of pretty phrases, it's a reality check based on the reflections of Alan Watts, one of the greatest spiritual thinkers of the 20th century. What he taught about love, solitude, and consciousness will completely change the way you view your relationships and feelings. If you're tired of being the person who always loves more, feels more, understands more, and still ends up alone, this video was made for you. And what's revealed here may finally make sense of it all. Now that you understand why awakened souls love so intensely and yet end up alone, something inside you has shifted. You've begun to see your pain clearly and realize that feeling too much was never a weakness. It was awareness. And those who receive such truth are never the same again. So, do what needs to be done. Like this video and subscribe to the channel, because this is the kind of content that transforms and liberates those who carry the burden of deep feelings. Each new video is a continuation of this journey of understanding and healing that you've just begun. Showing your support is the simplest way to keep this truth alive and help others awaken as well. Have you noticed that the more you awaken, the more love changes its meaning for you? Before it was something simple, almost automatic, liking, feeling, wanting to be together. But now it's as if loving has become deeper, more intense, and at the same time, more solitary. Because love, for an awakened soul, is no longer about having someone. It's about seeing life through the other. When you awaken, you understand that love is not an exchange, it's a reflection. And this reflection shows what's inside you, your light, your shadows, your fears, your healing. That's why true love requires courage. It's not comfortable, it's transformative. And that's precisely where many people give up. Because loving this way hurts, especially in a world where most people still love out of need, not conscience. Alan Watts said that love is the purest form of freedom because it doesn't control, doesn't bind, doesn't expect. It simply is. But try explaining that to someone who still confuses love with possession. It's difficult. You begin to realize that you're surrounded by people who claim to love you, but want to mold you, fit you in, and trap you. And the more you awaken, the more you understand that this isn't love, it's fear. Fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of facing emptiness. But the awakened soul has already known this emptiness and learned to live with it. Therefore, it doesn't settle for half-heartedness. It can't tolerate games, and it won't accept anything less than true love. And that's where the problem begins, because the love of an awakened soul is too intense for those who still live in slumber. It's transparent, doesn't know how to pretend, doesn't know how to play games. It's the kind of love that gives everything but asks for nothing. That's present but doesn't invade. That wants the best for the other, even if it means letting them go. This is the kind of love that scares. And as contradictory as it may seem, it's this kind of love that leaves you most alone. Because when you love consciously, you realize that almost no one is ready to be loved this way. And you begin to feel that the problem might not be with you, but with the world that hasn't yet learned to truly love. And that hurts, because you feel like sharing, surrendering yourself. But every time you try, you realize that most people don't want to connect soul to soul. They want distractions, validation, temporary companionship. You, on the other hand, want truth. You want to be with someone who looks you in the eye and understands what you feel without words, who respects you, who supports you, who grows with you. But unfortunately, awakened consciousness doesn't fit into every relationship, and you gradually realize that to love like that, you first need to learn to be okay alone. But calm down. It's not sad loneliness. It's conscious solitude. It's that moment when you realize that loving isn't about dependence. It's about being complete enough to not need the other to fill what's missing, but to choose to share what overflows. It's a powerful turning point because you stop seeking love to heal yourself and start loving because you're healed. This changes everything. It changes the way you look, the way you feel, the way you relate. Love stops being a desire and becomes a presence. And when that happens, something inside you awakens in a way that there's no turning back. You begin to see beauty in the little things, in the way the sun shines through the window, in the sound of rain hitting the glass, in the laughter of someone you love, even in the pain that teaches you. You come to understand that love is the engine of consciousness, and the higher you rise, the more you realize that loving is an act of total surrender, but without expectations. It's giving without needing to receive. It's being whole, even when the other person isn't. It's freeing and continuing to love even from afar. And this isn't weakness, it's strength. It's the strength of someone who understands that true love doesn't fit into labels, status, or conventions. It simply exists and manifests itself in every sincere gesture, in every choice made with the heart. Many people will look at this and think it's an exaggeration. They'll say that loving like this is dangerous, that it's giving too much. But only those who have awakened understand that the real danger is living without feeling. Love is what keeps you human in a world that tries to turn you into a machine. And those who love consciously understand that even pain has a purpose because it expands the heart. Every disappointment, every misunderstanding, every relationship that ended was, in fact, a mirror showing you parts of yourself that needed healing. And that's why awakened love is never a loss. It's a learning experience. Now think about it. How many times have you felt too much for someone? Too much for feeling too much, for caring too much, for talking about deep things when the other person only wanted the superficial. This isn't a flaw. It's a sign that your soul is in another stage. People who are still asleep can't sustain this kind of energy for long. That's why you pull away, not out of pride, but because you realize you can't shrink yourself to fit into small spaces. And when you understand this, love completely changes its shape. Awakened love is a reflection of your own expanded consciousness. It shows who you've become, how much you've grown, and how much you no longer fit into old ways of loving. And even though it hurts, there's immense freedom in that, because now you no longer depend on anyone to feel what you feel. Love has become an internal state, not an external exchange. It has become the natural expression of your soul. And this is one of the greatest transformations a human being can experience. Moving from the love that binds to the love that liberates. Comment below the word freedom. So I know you've come this far and understand what it means to love consciously. This word represents exactly what awakened love brings. Freedom to be, to feel, and to choose truly. And speaking of freedom, and that's where the most painful and most profound point of this journey comes in. Because when you learn to love this way, something inevitable happens, and that's what we'll talk about next. Have you ever noticed that those with an awakened heart feel everything with an almost unbearable intensity? Things that seem small to others become storms for you. A harsh word, a cold look, an indifferent gesture. Everything hits you as if the world has placed a magnifying glass on your emotions. It's not drama, it's sensitivity. It's as if your soul has removed the filter from life, and now everything arrives raw, direct, without protection. It's beautiful, but it's exhausting. And the curious thing is that the more aware you become, the more you realize how numb the world is, and it hurts. Alan Watts said that joy and pain are two sides of the same coin, and that those who want to feel one must accept the other. The problem is that awakened souls didn't choose to feel so much. They simply can't live superficially anymore. It's as if the heart has been reprogrammed to feel everything in high definition. The beauty of a sunset moves you, but the sadness of a stranger on the street tears you apart. And when you try to explain it, people say you're too sensitive, but no one understands the weight of carrying the world inside your chest. This pain of feeling too much comes from the fact that awakened consciousness isn't content with the shallow. You want true relationships, conversations that matter, looks that speak, gestures that have meaning. But most people live rushing, pretending, distracted. And when you appear with this heart that wants to connect soul to soul, the shock is inevitable. You begin to feel out of place, as if you've woken up in a world where almost everyone is still asleep. And there's no greater loneliness than this, being surrounded by people and yet feeling invisible. Many people think the pain of awakened souls comes from what they've lost, but the truth is it comes from what they see. You see hidden intentions, perceive what's unsaid, feel the energy even before the words. This protects you, but it also overwhelms you. You feel the weight of the surroundings, the sadness of those nearby, the anger of those who hide it, and all of this permeates you as if it were your own. Sometimes you don't even understand where the fatigue comes from, and that's precisely what Watts was talking about when he said that conscience is a light burden but difficult to bear. This is why many awakened people begin to withdraw. It's not because they dislike people, but because they need to breathe. Silence becomes a shelter. Time alone becomes the only place where the soul can regroup. And in this process, a strange feeling arises, longing for something you don't even know what it is, longing for a kind of love the world seems to have forgotten, longing for sincere conversations, for true presence, for eyes that truly see. This longing is a sign that your soul is remembering who you are and how much love has always been your nature. But the price of this sensitivity is high, because feeling too much also means suffering too much. You try to set limits, harden your heart, pretend you don't care, but you can't. And the worst part is that the world mistakes this sensitivity for weakness. But there's nothing stronger than someone who, even when hurt, still chooses to keep feeling. That's courage. It's choosing not to shut yourself down, even when everything inside you screams for protection. It's continuing to believe that beauty exists, even when chaos seems to dominate. And this is where Watts's teaching gains strength. He said that resisting pain is what truly causes suffering. When you accept feeling, suffering transforms into wisdom. The awakened heart doesn't run away from pain. It observes it, understands it, and transforms it into empathy. This is why awakened souls end up being those people who always help others, who listen, who welcome. They've been to that place of darkness and learned to escape. But what almost no one realizes is that behind this strength, there's a weary heart, which often just longs for someone to understand it in the same way. And perhaps this is the most delicate point of all. Those who feel too much live the paradox of being profound in a shallow world. You want to love, but fear giving yourself over again. You want to open up, but know how much it hurts when the other person can't handle your intensity. So, you begin to create a kind of invisible armor, not to push away, but to protect yourself. Even so, your essence remains there, pulsing, ready to love again, because love is your nature, and denying it would be like denying your own soul. Comment the word here to feel. So I know you've come this far and identified with this beautiful but difficult pain of someone with an awakened heart. Because feeling too much is a gift disguised as a burden, and understanding this changes everything. And it's precisely on this line between pain and awareness that something even deeper begins to happen. Something that will make you see that loneliness isn't always what it seems. There comes a point in your spiritual journey when you realize that solitude isn't a punishment but a necessary stage. It doesn't appear to punish you, it appears to prepare you. The truth is that conscious love requires space, and that space only exists when the noise of the world subsides. It's in this silence that you begin to truly hear yourself, and that's when many people get scared, because those accustomed to defining themselves through others despair when they find themselves alone. But those who awaken discover something different. Emptiness isn't absence, it's opportunity. Alan Watts said that loneliness is proof that we're ready to experience love maturely, because while you depend on someone's presence to feel whole, love is still a need in disguise. Only when you find peace in your own company does love become a choice, not a necessity. It's at this point that you understand that true love doesn't come to complete you, it comes to add. It doesn't come to fill what's missing, but to share what's already overflowing. And this shift changes everything. It changes the way you relate, the way you see yourself, and even what you expect from others. But getting there isn't easy. Conscious solitude is different from ordinary loneliness. It's not about emptiness, but about presence. It's about being alone but at peace. It's about looking within and realizing that love hasn't died, it's just changed address, it's left the outside and moved in. This doesn't happen overnight. At first it feels heavy. You miss having someone to talk to share simple things with, to be around. But over time, you begin to realize that what hurt wasn't the other person's absence, it was the fear of facing yourself. And when that fear goes away, loneliness transforms into strength. It's at this stage that many awakened souls get lost for a while, because the whole world tells you that being alone is wrong, that happiness is having someone, that success is being desired. But you begin to realize that these ideas are noise, distractions for those who don't yet want to find themselves, and while others rush to fill the silence, you learn to hear what it has to say to you. And what it says is simple, yet powerful. The love you've always sought outside was there inside all along, just waiting for you to recognize it. Of course, there are days when loneliness weighs heavily. There are moments when the silence seems to scream, and the desire to return to the comfort of illusions is strong. But it is precisely in these moments that conscious love solidifies, because truly loving at this stage is choosing to remain open-hearted even without guarantees. It's remaining at peace even when no one is by your side. It's trusting that the universe knows what it's doing, and that the right connections come when you're ready for them, not when you're desperate for them. Watts said that love is like water. The more you try to hold on to it, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hand, it stays. And this freedom born of solitude is one of the greatest blessings of those who awaken. You stop begging for presence, chasing after it, trying to prove your worth. You learn to be self-sufficient. You learn that love begins with self-respect and that silence can be the best teacher. Conscious solitude shows you who you are without masks, without an audience, without distractions. And when you truly face yourself, you discover that you are not alone. You are with yourself. And this completely changes the way you relate to the world. But there's a detail few people talk about. Loneliness doesn't go away just because you've evolved. It continues to exist, but its function changes. Before, it hurt. Now it teaches. Before it was a void. Now it's a shelter. It becomes a sacred space where you recharge your batteries, reconnect with your purpose, and remember that love doesn't depend on circumstances, but on consciousness. Solitude becomes a point of balance between what you feel and what the world offers you. Comment the word here, presence. So I know you understand the power of this phase, because those who reach this point realize that being alone has never been synonymous with being empty. Loneliness, when it comes after awakening, is a sign that love has finally matured within you, and it is precisely in this maturation that the next step arises, the moment when you discover the true meaning of loving without expecting anything in return. There comes a time when you simply understand the love you've always sought has never been about receiving anything in return. It's about giving, not because you need it, but because it's in your nature. When consciousness awakens, love ceases to be a negotiation and becomes a natural expression of who you are. You love because you know what it's like to be connected. You know what it's like to see the other person without masks. You know what it's like to wish them well even without return. And this is where most people get lost, because the world still teaches that love is about possession, about receiving validation, about being reciprocated. But awakened souls discover that true love doesn't depend on any of this. Alan Watts said that loving is like dancing or playing music. You don't do it expecting something in return. You do it because it's a pleasure to exist in that movement. And that's exactly what conscious love represents. A state of flow, a surrender, without calculation. You love not because the other person deserves it, but because it's what makes sense to your soul. And when that happens, everything changes. You stop worrying about getting something in return and start worrying about authenticity. You start wanting to experience love in its purest form, without filters, without control, without the need to prove something to someone. But loving this way comes at a price. People get confused. They think you're cold, detached, hard to understand. But what they don't see is that you feel everything. You just don't want to lose yourself, trying to hold on to what can't be held. Because those who awaken understand. Love isn't about holding on, it's about allowing. It's about letting the other person be, even if it means leaving. And this is one of the hardest lessons to put into practice. Allowing love to exist without needing to turn it into possession. You've been there, haven't you? That moment when everything inside you screamed to chase after it, to insist, to not let it end. But something deeper said, let it go. And it hurt. It hurt because the ego wants to control, wants to hold on, wants to guarantee a happy ending. But the soul knows that true love never goes away. It only changes form. It continues to exist, only free. And understanding this is liberating, because for the first time, you stop trying to force love to fit expectations. You learn to respect the flow of life and trust that what is true finds its way back, always. And you know what's even more curious? When you stop seeking rewards, love returns multiplied. People sense your energy differently. You don't demand, you don't pressure, you don't manipulate. Your very presence is an invitation to those ready to truly love. And this attracts more mature, more conscious connections, more aligned with your essence. It's as if the universe is saying, now that you understand, I'm going to send you people who also understand. And this is how awakened love manifests. Light, real, without games. But to get there, you need to break the cycle of I give to receive. Because as long as you love expecting something in return, love will continue to be a currency, not a force. Alan Watts talked about this. Love is not a duty, it's a state. It's not something you do, it's something that happens when you are present, when you are whole, when you are awake. And this kind of love is not weak. It's the most powerful there is. Because it doesn't depend. It doesn't waver when the other changes. It doesn't break when the other leaves. It simply continues, because it is rooted in consciousness, not in need. This kind of love makes you see yourself differently. You stop wanting to be loved, to feel enough, and start loving yourself because you finally understand that you already are. This changes everything. You begin to respect your limits, to choose better who you share your energy with, and most importantly, to stop begging for attention. You don't beg to be seen. You become someone who sees themselves, and those who see themselves attract genuine attention. This is how conscious love begins to transform your life. First from the inside, then from the outside. And when the heart reaches this level of clarity, it doesn't harden, it expands. You continue to love, only now with discernment. You love knowing that love doesn't have to last to be true. You love knowing that letting go is also an act of love. You love knowing that sometimes loving means letting go, not holding on. This is the highest point of loving awareness. When you realize that love was never about the other person, it was always about you, and how open your soul can remain even after everything you felt. Comment the word here, love. So I know you understand this turning point, because when love stops being an exchange and becomes freedom, you stop feeling empty and begin to feel peace. And it's precisely this peace that prepares you for the next step, the moment you realize that awakened love also brings a reality check. It teaches you that love doesn't always cure everything, and that's when awareness truly deepens. Everyone grows up believing that love is the answer to everything, that it mends what's broken, unites what's separated, heals what's hurt. But when your consciousness awakens, you discover a harsh truth. Love alone doesn't heal everything. It illuminates, yes, it shows the way, but it also exposes the wounds you pretended not to have. It makes you see what needs healing, and that sometimes hurts more than any rejection. Awakened love doesn't come to fill the hole, it comes to show where the hole is. Alan Watts said that love is the greatest teacher of truth because it reveals who you truly are when all defenses fall, and that's precisely why it can be so painful. Awakened souls know this firsthand. They love with an open heart, believing that love can transform everything, but they eventually discover that not. Everyone is willing to be transformed, and there's no greater frustration than giving pure love to someone still trapped in the illusions of the ego, because those who aren't ready to see themselves will turn love into a battlefield. They will project their pain, their fears, their guilt, and without realizing it, they will hurt those who only wanted to heal. It is at this point that the awakened heart learns the greatest lesson of all. Love is not about saving anyone. It's about understanding that each person has their own time, their own process, their own journey. You can inspire, you can support, you can even show them the way, but you can't walk for the other, and trying to do so is the fastest path to exhaustion, because love, when it becomes a rescue mission, ceases to be love and becomes dependency. And awakened souls suffer from this because they have an instinct to heal. They want to see the other well. They want to see the other evolve. They want to prove that true love exists. But true love doesn't need to prove anything. It just is. And the cruelest thing is that awakened love, because it's so pure, attracts many wounded people. People who sense its energy and draw closer because it's welcoming, because it soothes. But not all come to learn. Some come to drain. And you, out of love, allow it. You give, listen, understand, forgive, until you realize you're empty. And then you understand that limitless love becomes self-destruction. Watts said that love is like fire. It warms, but it also burns if you don't know how to handle it. And it's in this fine line between loving and losing yourself that awakened souls learn true balance. This is the point where you begin to realize that conscious love is different from romantic love. It's not made of promises, it's made of presence. It's not made of expectations, it's made of understanding. It doesn't save you from your pain, but it gives you the courage to face it. And over time, you understand that love didn't come to fix your life, it came to teach you how to deal with it. True love means taking responsibility for your feelings. It means stopping blaming the other for what's missing in you. This is what differentiates awakened love from ordinary love. It's mature, not needy. And here's the curious thing. The more you understand this, the freer you become. Because love, when it stops being anesthesia and becomes consciousness, frees you from the need to control the outcome. You begin to experience love for what it is now, and not for the fear of losing it later. You learn to be grateful for what existed, instead of blaming yourself for what ended. And this maturity is what transforms pain into wisdom. You stop asking, why did it end? And start asking, what did this teach me? And this simple shift in question completely changes your life. But it's not an easy process. There will be days when you'll feel exhausted from feeling so much. Days when you'll want to go back to being cold, to living more lightly, less intensely. But once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. You can try to hide it, distract yourself, run away. But conscious love will call you back. It will remind you that feeling is what makes you human, and that the purpose of love was never to spare you from pain, but to show you that you are greater than it. And it's at this point that love stops being a cure and becomes a transformation. Comment the word here. Transformation, so I know you. Understand this turning point. Because awakened love doesn't come to heal, it comes to reveal, and what it reveals changes everything. And it's precisely this revelation that paves the way for the next stage. The one where you understand that the truest love there is the one that knows how to love and let go. At some point along the way, you understand that true love isn't about holding on, it's about allowing. It's the most mature and at the same time, the most difficult stage of awakening. Because until then, you believe that love meant holding close, caring, protecting. But conscious love shows you the opposite. Loving is letting the other person go, even when everything inside you wants to hold on. And this isn't giving up. It's respecting the natural flow of life. Alan Watts said that love only lasts when you let it go, because the act of trying to hold on is precisely what destroys it. When you understand this, love stops being a contract and becomes a choice, a daily choice, light and therefore powerful. This freedom is frightening because the ego wants guarantees. It wants to be sure the other person will stay. It wants to predict the outcome. It wants to control destiny. But awakened love knows that control kills what is alive. So you learn to trust, and this is the most liberating part of all. Trusting that what is true will stay, and what is not will follow its own path. You learn not to cling, not to force, not to beg to be loved. You learn to simply love. And when love doesn't depend on the other person's presence to exist, it becomes eternal. Only those who have experienced conscious love understand this strange peace that comes after pain. The longing still exists, but it no longer hurts. It turns into gratitude. You look back and instead of anger feel a silent affection, because you understand that each person who passed by left a piece of learning, a mirror, a reminder of what you still needed to see. That's why awakened love is so different. It doesn't need happy endings, it needs true endings. It prefers to lose with sincerity rather than hold on to illusion, and this lucidity is what differentiates an awakened soul from one who still lives asleep in the automatic mode of relationships. At first, it seems cold, People will call you detached, hard to love, but you know better. You've simply understood that love isn't about possession, it's about permission. That loving someone isn't about wanting them to be yours, but about hoping they're happy, even if they're far from you. And anyone who's never experienced this kind of love doesn't understand how much it costs. It's a love that demands strength because it happens in silence. It's that moment when you hold back tears, smile, and wish them well, knowing that letting go is the purest act of love there is. Alan Watts said that most people don't understand love because they confuse surrender with dependence. But conscious love doesn't want to hold you back. It wants to expand. It doesn't want the other person to revolve around you. It wants them to shine, live, grow. And the most beautiful thing is that when you love this way, the universe conspires to bring everything back to you in double measure. Because what is free always finds its way back. Sometimes in another form, sometimes in another person, sometimes within yourself. But it returns. It always returns. And this is the true peace that awakened love brings, the certainty that nothing is a loss when there is truth. Everything you've experienced, even what ended, had meaning. Everything that hurt shaped you, and everything that left space for something new to arrive. Conscious love is like this. It teaches you to trust the cycle, to see the end as a new beginning, to understand that freedom is the soil where love flourishes. When you love freely, the fear of loss disappears, because you understand that love was never about possession, it was about experience. And this awareness transforms you forever. Now that you've come this far, something inside you has shifted. The pieces have started to fall into place, and that burden of loving too much finally makes sense. You understand that pain, loneliness, and even loss have always been part of the process that transformed you into who you are today. An awakened soul, capable of loving with awareness and freedom. And that's why this video wasn't just a reflection, it was a mirror. It helped you see what was hidden, accept what you felt, and realize that you were never broken, only expanding. And when a truth like that touches someone, it can't stop with you. It leaves its mark of gratitude. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. This simple gesture keeps this message alive and allows others to find the same clarity you found here. It's a way to spread light to those still lost in the shadows of unconscious love. Comment the word here, wake up, because it represents exactly where you've arrived, the beginning of a new phase of your consciousness. And stay tuned, because the next video will delve even deeper into this path of self-knowledge and connection. What follows will show you something few people truly understand. What happens after love awakens within you? It's the next step on the journey, and you'll want to be there for it.